Bickley and Marotta. Bickley and Marotta mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
Normally, I laugh at those who are constantly fueled by perceived disrespect. And you know who I'm talking about. The athletes who are obsessed with the opinions of outsiders. The lions who are focused on the bleating of sheep. But I'll tell you this much, when it comes to the 2023 Arizona Cardinals, the disrespect is real. Because if you pay attention to the power rankings, which I normally don't, you will see the Cardinals still anchored at the bottom of the NFL, and the comments are just as snarky as ever, like this one from Yahoo Sports. Quote, Arizona somehow will manage to be 0-3 after this weekend. Nothing more needs to be said, end quote. Really? That is putting the diss in dismissive. For most of the reactions, you'd assume the Cardinals were blown out in week one, and they most assuredly were not. In fact, their road loss in front of a hostile Commanders crowd was the very definition of a moral victory. But it seems as if the Cardinals are a team stuck inside a narrative, a team that is tanking, and a franchise that has generated far too many off-the-field headlines, a team that has replaced the Commanders as the most dysfunctional franchise in the NFL. So, this weekend is a great opportunity to punch the Giants and a narrative in the face. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW, who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
I mean, you bring up such a great point. I mean, the comment from Yahoo Sports, somehow they'll be 0-3 after this weekend. That's a diss, but it's also disinterested. That's somebody who was in charge of making those comments about these games.
Yeah.
That did not pay 1 second of thought to the Washington-Arizona game last week.
Clearly.
And didn't go back and watch it on replay either. Mm-hmm. So if they do punch the Giants and the narrative in the face, and we're coming here on Monday morning and we're talking about a Cardinals win, I don't think nationally it changes that much. I think the narrative then shifts to, how bad are the Giants? That's what I think.
I think you're right.
Because it's another indirect way to diss the Arizona Cardinals.
That's exactly right. But again, I think most normal people, most logical, reasonable people would have been impressed by what the Cardinals did last Sunday.
And
all things considered.
People that paid attention were.
Yeah, and they should have been. I mean, that really was, and I'm not a moral or morale victory kind of guy at all. But there are times when that phrase actually applies and resonates, and this is one of them. And I think it probably applies to this weekend, too. I think it's a great opportunity for the Cardinals to win a game. I think it's probably the last realistic W in their grasp for quite some time, which is why I think there's a level of importance to winning this game. But I'm not sure you have to win to please the crowd. That's how low the bar has fallen. Mm-hmm. And across the league, you talk about a narrative. You've got a head coach who just is continuing to get hammered by the Philadelphia fan base and the media. You've got a GM who raised his hand to take the blame for the tampering with Jonathan Gannon, costing the team draft capital. And then you've got the owner who's at the center of an alleged burner phone controversy. You throw it all together, and that's what people are looking at this football franchise. They're not looking at renewal. They're still focusing on dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And what you saw in week one was more about renewal. And now if you can get the quarterback and the offense to kind of take a couple steps forward, you've got a game you might win. And if you win this game, like you said, are they going to be feasting on the Giants?
Oh my goodness, it's going to be ugly in New York if that happens.
Yeah,
for them.
and I think it would be a good moment for Jonathan Gannon to kind of, because people on the East Coast, they're aware of what the Philly media does, and this is a thing out there. And it's.
I'm just glad the Eagles won last night, because the criticism of Gannon this morning would have been just awful.
Listen, and I said this earlier in the show, for those who watched the game, the first quarter was not even over, and the Eagles fans were booing their own offense. Mm-hmm. Now, you might go, that's good. They've got expectations. They're demanding. They're a little over the top.
Fire Brian Johnson was trending nationally.
In his second game as
in
the
his
offensive
second game.
coordinator.
So it gives you context about Jonathan Gannon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what he came from? Yeah. Yes, it does.
People, consider therapy. Please.
Head coach Brian Daboll of the Giants, he commented on the Cardinals heading into this week's Week 2 matchup.
Really good coach. I think they got a fast defense. As you said, they got after the passer. They rally to the ball, and Buddha is one of the best safeties in the league. And then you look on the offensive side of the ball, like you said, with Ertz or Hollywood Brown, who can really fly. They present a lot of different challenges, I'd say, for both units.
I think there's interesting challenges within the Cardinals, too. Obviously, the challenge internally has to be the offense getting better, becoming more productive, putting points on the board when they've got opportunities to do it, protecting the ball better. But I don't expect there to be these vast changes that are being talked about and advertised. So that flips the subject of pressure to the defense. They were the unit that came out and set a standard in week 1. It's only 1 week. I get it. But they already proved what they're capable of. The pressure then becomes falls on them to duplicate that performance, because that's really the only way, in my opinion, until I see differently, the Cardinals have opportunities to win games this year.
Yeah.
Is to have 11 guys on the defensive side of the ball playing with their hair on fire, flying around with no regard for their body.
Right. Because a couple things about that. That makes fans proud. The effort, the heart, the toughness. These things matter to football fans when it comes to their football teams. I know because it matters to me. And that's something you can rally around. You can rally around the football team that doesn't win but punches everybody in the face. And I always draw last year's Lions as an example. Last year's Lions weren't a bad team, but they were celebrated for their competitiveness given where they had been as a franchise in previous years. They can do this, and I think that is, and it shows belief in, it shows two things. It shows the Cardinals are indeed selecting the right kind of football players. How many times with the previous general manager would he talk about how you can't make mistakes on a player's heart or a player's mind, and he acted like he knew, and yet he never got the kind of players he claimed to be seeking. So if you get you know what I mean? He would talk it, but he wouldn't know how to get them or where to find them or what they look like. So if you've assembled that kind of team this year, it proves to you, A, you're getting the type of player you claim to be looking for, which means your talent evaluation skills are good, and B, it means they really like the head coach and his message. And that can't be underestimated. If you want a gushing look at Jonathan Gannon, listen to what Mark Schlereth said about him yesterday on this program. Now, Mark's got to know Jonathan a little bit. And Mark's done some Eagles games last year. He's done Cardinals games this year. They've had many conversations, and Mark doesn't BS. You know that. And the leadership stuff that Jonathan Gannon has impresses Mark Schlereth. So I think that all these things have to be looked at, and they have to be looked at in the proper context. This is not a team stuck inside a narrative right now.
No. At least not here locally.
Yeah, right.
Nationally, there's still a lot of that laziness going on.